All right, so our learning target for this lesson is I can explain how elements of cultures spread. Go ahead and copy this into the learning target box at the top of your notes. And now that we've done that, we are going to move forward. So, what is cultural diffusion? So, the definition that we're going to work with for cultural diffusion is the spread of cultural beliefs and social activities from one group of people or society to another. So, it's taking something from here and spreading it to a new group. Now, this image with McDonald's is a good representation because McDonald's started in America, in the United States, and then it spread and is now in over 100 countries worldwide. So this is what we're talking about with cultural diffusion. It's the spreading of culture from one place to new places. So how does that actually happen? The means of diffusion, what this refers to is how. How does culture actually diffuse? How does it spread? The first way is trade. Trade is a very, very common way that it diffuses throughout. And what we mean by trade is exchanging goods spreads ideas. If I trade something with you, now all of a sudden I'm exposed to something new, and that new thing might influence my own perspectives and my own beliefs. Another way is travel. And when we say travel, we mean kind of like vacation, touristy style travel. It's not where you're traveling and moving to someplace. That's a totally separate thing. So, travel, new ideas are going to spread through visiting places because as you're exposed to and experiencing more, you're going to take more with you. Technology is our third means of diffusion, and technology diffuses culture primarily because innovations spread through adoption by societies. So, for example, cell phones and iPhones. iPhones started again in the United States, and now countries all over the world and people all over the world use iPhones. That's what we mean by technology. As a means of diffusion. It also could be something where, like YouTube, it's not just the use of that, it's not just the use of the technology, but the technology itself could spread an idea. So if you think of YouTube, if you have like a tutorial on YouTube and you're trying to learn something new on YouTube, and somebody on the other part of the world, they watch that same tutorial. Well, now you have that transferring, and the way that it transferred, how it actually transferred was through technology from one place to another. So it could be the diffusion of technology. It could also be diffusion through technology. Okay. Migration is our fourth means of diffusion. And migration specifically means when people move to a new place. So this is different than travel because when you travel somewhere, you're going there for a temporary amount of time and then you come back. When you're migrating, you're going there and then you're staying there. So immigrants bring their cultures with them to new places. And this is going to impact the cultures around them. And it's also going to impact their own cultures, which we'll take a look more at in future lessons. Conquest is our last one, and conquest really refers to forced cultural diffusion. So forced cultural mixing through invasion or through empire, right? I show up and you will accept this as part of your culture, or else there will be consequences. That's what we mean by conquest. Okay, so some examples of these is the spread of Buddhism from India to China, Korea, and Japan. This religion started in India, and now it's very, very common throughout most of Southeast Asia. The spread of Western culture and technologies during imperialism and colonialism. This would be an example of conquest, where especially like the Christian religion, there were a lot of Christian conquistadors in Latin America, for example, where Cortez shows up and conquers the Aztecs and basically forces them all to convert to Catholicism. That happened in multiple places around the world. There's also the spread of hip hop music from the US to become a global phenomenon, and then diffusion of foods like pizza, hamburgers, and tacos globally. So, this is something you can find pizza in multiple places around the world, even though it's not really from their culture. It is spread throughout the world pretty effectively and pretty far and wide. And last but not least, here it's the spread of democratic ideals and values during the Age of Enlightenment. Okay. All right, last but not least, what are the effects, right? What happens as a result of this? So there's a blending of cultural traits when two cultures meet, where you can take two cultures and kind of synthesize them together. So for example, Spanish foods like ham, chorizo, sausage, and breads blended into Filipino cuisine after Spanish colonization. The Spanish colonized the Philippines and basically conquered them for 200 years. So they kind of, there's a blending of cultural traits. Second, there's a change in cultural practices, values, and technologies. And what we mean is the idea that things can spread throughout and it kind of changes the way that other people do it. Even if you're not copying their culture, it changes how things happen. Third is cultural integration, right, which also risks cultural imperialism. Now, cultural integration is you're taking different pieces of culture and you're kind of putting them all together, very similar to blending, but you have very distinct differences because the risk is that one culture is going to dominate and encapsulate the other culture. And that's what cultural imperialism is, where you show up and you start off kind of integrating, but then slowly over time, one culture kind of dominates the rest. And then you almost like don't really even see that culture, which leads us into our fourth effect. It can enrich cultures, but it also leads to tensions and cultural masking. So cultural masking is like this essentially, where you're hiding another culture. This happened in the United States with Native American cultures, where as Europeans were moving into what is now the United States, a lot of Native American cultures were pushed out, or they literally forced Native American students, Native American kids to go to Americanization schools where they taught them how to be Americans. So they were trying to strip their culture away and replace it with a new culture. In the modern day, people worry that global media makes popular culture, oops, got to move this out of the way, makes popular culture the same everywhere, which means that we lose those kind of unique differences in cultures.